Hi there guys, welcome back to our 7th tutorial about developing a game using LibGDX, our spaceship game, and you know, lasers and stuff like that. So if you remember, in the previous video or in the previous tutorial, we created a number of stars as background for our spaceship, and these stars are moving, you know, as you can see here, right? So all looks fine, all looks okay, right? So what we need to do next is, or what I said that I'm gonna do next, is to add some kind of background that will, appear on top of this, okay? So in order to do that, let me close this. Not on top, at the very bottom of it. Okay, something like supernova or something like that. So I'm gonna start GIMP, and in the meantime, let me clear the desktop. These files are not needed anymore, so I will remove them. Okay, because I already have the needed files in the application folder, which is here. Where is that? In the Android part, in the assets, you'll find this sprite sheet file. This is the important file. As for this one, this is not important anymore. We already, we already got rid of this one. I'm not calling it at all. Anyway, so while this one loads, and I think because my PC just loaded, let's start, or let's go here. Okay, so what is going on in here? So if we go to the background management class, let's go to the render part, render background. We are looping on the stars here, and setting the alpha for each star and render it and update the speed and location, right? Before that, we are gonna add this background, special background. So let's create it first. So let's go file, create a new image, and let's assume that this file will be now what's the dimension? Let me check the dimension for this game. Right now, the virtual width, okay, so 800. So what am I gonna do is give it a width of 800. As for the height, I will give it 1600. I'm not sure, maybe I'll reduce this later on, but anyway, I'll fill it here. Let me show or view toolbox and stuff. Where is the toolbox? Yeah, there's a problem with GIMP. In many cases, the windows that you need, navigation, toolbox. Okay, so this is the toolbox, right? And I need to see the layers. Single window mode. Let me see. Single window mode. Yeah, I'm not and hide docs. Why do I hide docs? Okay, so we have the brushes right here. Yeah, I'm not sure why it does that. This is very weird, right? For the life of me, I don't know why it's doing this. It's making things so much harder. Display navigation, what? Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure why GIMP, chose to change these. Let me close this tab, and let me close this tab. Okay, so we have the toolbox, and the very last thing I need is the don't want this to be about GIMP. The very last thing is that I need is the layers, right? So brushes, layers, hide docs, help, view. Damn it. Anyway, regardless of that. So right now, what am I gonna do? I'll click here, select everything, and let me go to filters. I remember there was something here, render clouds, and we should choose plasma here. There you go. So we could start with a new seed until we get something that looks nice. Okay, so I'm gonna choose something like maybe this one. Yeah, this seems to be nice. Okay, no, not like that. I think the original one was good. I think I'll go with this one. There you go. So we've got this one. This looks okay. This looks nice. And I will just save this. So export as. Let's go to the desktop and choose. This one will be what? It will be supernova, for example. This is not supernova, but you know, that's something I chose. Anyway, so supernova.png at desktop, export that and export. Wonderful. Let's close our GIMP. Close, that's fine. And I'll keep it open here just in case I need it for some unknown reason. So I'll copy the file, go to Android Studio. Let's go to Android, let's go to Assets and right click and paste it. Where is that? Where is the paste command? There you go. So supernova.png. Click OK. We got it. So we have supernova.png right here. This is the image that we want to use as background. So let's go back to our, our game, or maybe let me go back here, background management. Now, if you notice that I made the background not in the sprite sheet, in a different file, so this will be the only one different. I will not combine it because I want to use a huge chunk of the of the image. So let me see. So we have background management. What we need to do is this. So public texture, I'll enter supernova. Okay, semicolon. So in the constructor, I'm gonna do this. I'll say supernova equals a new texture, and of course I will just pass the name of the file. So it's supernova.png. Before doing anything, let me just run the game, make sure that it works. Okay, let's see. Okay, it's working fine. Now, what am I gonna do is go to the rendering part. So here, what am I gonna do is draw, part of the background. Okay, so here I will say sb.draw. I will pass supernova and place it at location 0, 0. Okay, I will write nothing else. Okay, let's see what's going to happen now. Okay, so now you have this, some kind of background, something like that, but the color of it, it's a little bit too bright, so we will reduce its brightness, and we are going to do that by changing the alpha. Okay, so I will set the alpha to be actually so instead of using brightness, I will say 0.5f. So I'll use half, the color components in this texture, and see what are we gonna get. Oh, there's an error here. Forgot to close the bracket. Let's run this. Okay, not much seems to be changing here. Let me increase this, sorry, reduce this further, so it's now 10th of the original color. Let me see. Oh, so now this one is too light, you can't even see it. So let me go with 0.2. We'll try this until we can see something that is not too bright and also not too faint. Okay, so this one is kind of nice, I suppose, right? So this is very nice. Now, what are we gonna do next is to, you know, make this texture move. Okay, so we will make this texture move. So how are we gonna do that? So let's add, where's the supernova here? So public int, or maybe make it float, something like that. Supernova y. Now what happens that we want to draw the supernova from bottom and go up to give the impression that we are moving forward. So I suppose this will be, let me see, equals. Yeah, make it 0 at first. And let's see what should we do here. Yeah. So what are we gonna do is this supernova y. Supernova y. So now we will say supernova y, okay, equals supernova y plus let's say 1.0f semicolon. And now if, now I'm not sure if wait a second, let me check the draw. Wait a second, I think I made a mistake here. Let me check this for. Okay, so here we have the float x, y, the origin x and y. Okay, this one I mean. So 0, 0, followed by 0. Yeah. So virtual width. Oh, source width, source height. So now. Yeah, what we want to do, or the one we want to call, is one with its float x, source y, and width and height. So we want to set the width. This is gonna be g01 game dot virtual width followed by g01 game virtual height. Okay, so this will render everything here. So let's see if this works. I hope it works. Oh, so this one I need to cast it to integer because this is a float and it expects me to enter an integer here. So let me see if it works. Okay, so you can see that the texture, you know, is moving in the reverse direction. Right, so instead of plus I will use minus here, minus. So I'll just say if supernova y smaller than 0, okay, at that very point supernova y equals supernova dot get height, and subtract from that g01 dot virtual height and semicolon. Okay, this will be okay, I suppose. Let's see. Okay, so you can see now, you know, the color background's also moving, but it's still moving a little bit too fast. So instead of using 1, I will use 0.1. Okay, sorry. So 0.1 will be nice. Let's run this again. Okay, so now this one I suppose looks really good, and it seems like you are flying in a gas cloud, um, which I would assume is now, way much better than the previous background. So we filled everything right now, and it should appear to be okay. Now, let's change a few things here if possible. I want to change the height of the display ports for the game. So instead of 600, I will change it to be 500. And the reason for that is, well, right now, the display for the desktop is a little bit, not as compatible with mobile design. So when we are gonna design this game, it will be, it will look like squashed on mobile devices a little bit. So I removed 100 pixel from the display port, and now I think we could compare this to Android display and see how it goes. Okay, wait a second until this one starts. Okay, so we have this one. We are gonna compare it in a second. Okay, I suppose it should be like that. Okay, let's hope it looks a little bit better. And by the way, we could add few features, for example, a flag that is in the launcher for Windows app or the desktop app to indicate that this is a desktop application. So we could, hide these buttons and the mouse click so that, we can see the full screen. As for Android, of course, you want these buttons, otherwise, you'll get into trouble. You wouldn't know what to do. Yeah, so waiting for our friend Android here. Just bear with me, please. There you go. Right, so very nice. I think it's a little bit better, and the image looks crappy on Android, of course, but I suppose the reason for that is, the emulation here. So I suppose the emulation is causing this issue, right? But all in all, the rendering and the game, looks really nice. So I suppose that will be good, it will be acceptable. Now there is one thing else here. So since we finished this one, let me stop this one. Since we finished this, let's address one important issue here. Now, what we did here in the game, if you have a look, is that we tend to, when we update the x-axis and, move backgrounds and stuff like that, we tend to use absolute units, and we are depending on the render the number of calls here on the render command, render function, right? Now, if your device becomes busy, or for some reason it slows down, that will have serious implications on the game. So what happens is that the game is gonna slow down a lot, or let's say if there are more calls to render than normal, the game is gonna speed up. So what you want is consistent speed, almost consistent speed across, across all, devices, and making sure that the game doesn't behave strangely. If, for example, you are running on faster processor, or, this render method is being called too often or too little, okay? In order to do that, we should take time into consideration. The way I do it, I take time into consideration. I think others use other techniques, I'm sure, but for my case, I use time. So what what am I gonna do is do the following. Let's go to the game and let's define a number of static variables here for time management. Okay, so here, let me add this here, time management variables. Okay, so public static int all time, semicolon, and public static int new time. Okay, so there is old and new time, public static int time difference, semicolon, and public static float time span. Okay, so what are these four variables? Now, the old time will store the timer, the phone timer or the PC timer when the previous rendering happened. The new time is going to store the new timing or the new time stamp. And the time difference is the difference between the two, which I'm going to use, and this one, this is an integer. This one is going to be, you know, time per second, so it will have a fraction number. So let me show you what am I going to do here. So I will say first all time equal system, I suppose, tick count. Oh, current time milliseconds. Okay, so current time milliseconds here, what is it? Okay, so it needs to be long. I'm sorry. So instead of integer, make it long, right? And this is gonna be long, and this is gonna be long. Okay, there you go. And yeah. So current time milliseconds. Okay, so now when rendering, the first thing I'm gonna do, by the way, a new time equals system current time milliseconds. Okay, so the first thing I'm gonna do here, update the time variables. So here, what am I gonna do? I'm gonna say all time equals new time, and the new time equals system current time milliseconds. Okay, so time difference equals new time minus all time. Now I'm gonna add something here, which is if time difference is greater than, now this difference is going to be in milliseconds, so if it is more than 10 milliseconds, I will just assume that time difference equals 10. And the reason for that, let's say you are playing the game and you are shooting a bullet for some reason, and you paused the game. For example, the phone rang or something happened, and after 3 minutes you came back to the game. Now the new time will have 3 minutes time interval multiplied by the speed, so the bullet's gonna fly out of the screen. But in this case, we are checking here, saying that if it is more than 10 milliseconds, assume it is 10 milliseconds only. Okay, so such thing doesn't happen. In other words, if the device is being too slow, the game is gonna slow. You won't find things jumping a lot. Okay, this is the point of this. This is the whole point of this one. Now, time span is gonna equal float time difference, divide this by 1000.0 float. Okay, so the time span is now storing the, you know, the time in seconds, and the reason for that, the time difference storing in milliseconds, and millisecond equal 1000 and 1 second contains 1000 milliseconds. So if I divide this by 1000, I get the time as a fraction in seconds. Okay, hopefully this is obvious, I hope. So let's go here, image position. Now all I need to do to take time into consideration, I just multiply this by time span. Okay, very simple. Every time you are changing things, x or y, just make sure you are multiplying by time span, and that's it. It should get updated smoothly. Okay, so this is the first one. Let me go to background management, right? Yeah, this is background management. So what am I doing here? Let me see, where's the place where I update? Okay, so you can see this part here. I am changing, the Y. So, oh, I'm very sorry. Let me first go here. This one's being selected. Why? I'm not sure. But, okay, so the first thing I'm gonna do is multiply this by the time span. Okay. G01 game dot. There you go. Wait a second. Yeah. So the speed in which the background moves, you multiply by the time span, and you will get a better indication here. Okay, now let's go to supernova, blah blah blah. Let's go to the other place where we change the Y of the stars. So speed Y, all I need to do is multiply this by the time span and continue everything normally, right? And let me see, what also do we have? YS random blah blah blah. I suppose that's it. Now the whole game is gonna run based on the actual time difference. So let's see if this works. Now we could be ruining things. Oh, oops, didn't want to do that. I want it on the desktop. Run this one here. Very sorry about that. Okay, so now let's go to the game. Yeah, now it is working, but it is moving too slowly, and the reason for that is the speed here. Let me show you. So now you might be wondering about the speed. Let me just click here and part this one off. Okay, now the speed here, let me go, where is the background? This is the background, right? So this one means I want to move with a speed of 0.1 pixel per second. Okay, so we can address this in one of two ways. We could either increase the time span and see what happens, because it's gonna propagate the change everywhere, or actually we could just change this one. So I wanted to move 1 pixel per second. So let's see. Okay, so now I'm not sure if this is very obvious, but I suppose it is. Yeah, it's working here. Now let's go to the stars. Where is that? Speed Y. Okay, for the stars it's working well. Let me go to the spaceship itself. As for the spaceship, now what's the problem here? Now the problem, image position. What's the image position? I suppose this is an integer. Yes, it is an integer. So I need to change this to float. Okay, now changing this to float. Now the problem is when you are updating this one, you are multiplying a fraction by this and storing the result into an integer, which would result in a truncation of the value. but since I changed this one to, you know, an integer, I should have no problem now. So let me see if I could move. Okay, so now I can move it, but it is too slow. The spaceship is being too slow. So instead of this, I wanted to move at speed of, let's say, 30 pixels per second. Okay. Okay. So now this is much better. Now let's say we want the speed of this one to find the correct speed or number of pixels we travel per second. This is 800, right? So what am I gonna do is run the calculator here. Okay. So now we have 800 pixels, and I want my spaceship to, you know, travel from left to right in about 8 seconds, right? Yeah. So I'll make this 100 pixel. Okay. So what should happen now is, well, I should be able to move from left to right in 8 seconds. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And obviously I'm doing something wrong with my calculations here, but this is the basic idea. So maybe I did something wrong, but anyway, let me see the image direction. Not sure here. Okay, let me change this to 150, for example. Yeah, I think I'm doing something wrong. This is why the timing is off. Okay, maybe we could make this a little bit faster, because it seems to me it's a little bit slow. So let me make this 350, right? Okay, so now you can see there's some kind of shadow. I don't know if you know, the video is recording that, but there is some kind of shadow now that the spaceship is leaving behind, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, so this looks okay. Now let's go back to the background management and improve the speed a little bit, right? So now let me see where the speed is. Why? Yeah, I will multiply the speed by 10. I want it to be 10 times faster. So let's see. Okay, maybe I'll make the speed, you know, 20 times faster. Let me see. Right. Okay. So now, well, let me make this 100 times faster. Okay. I think there are rounding errors and stuff like that that are accumulating and causing the problem. So 100 seems to be okay, right? So all in all, this seems to be all right. Okay. So now we have a nice background. Okay, but I'm not sure that the background is moving. Right, because of the colors I chose, so it's very weird. How can I check this? Maybe I should have left some marker or something like that. Right, so no, it is moving. So yeah, there should be a dark spot here. No, yeah, there's a problem with, you know, things I do. If I don't put markers, I don't know if they are working well. I think it's working well, and yeah, if there's a bug, we will address that later on. So all in all is nice. This is okay right now. So we finished updating the background and setting the timer. So now the game, um, you know, is being affected by the time itself of the you know, of the machine. So in order to demonstrate this, let me stop this for a second here. Now what am I gonna do? I will make something that is very simple. Where is it? Not background. Let me go to the game here. Okay, so here I will just say time span equals 0. In other words, it's like you paused the game. Let's assume you paused the game. So now let's run this and I'll show you what's gonna happen. So now we have this one. Okay, so now I got one of the problems. First, the spaceship doesn't move left and right, but the stars are moving. So this is one of the issues that I forgot to address. So here, let me go to the background management. It was good that we did that, right? So we're at the part where we update the y. So 100 multiply by. Actually, we need to put everything here inside the brackets. And let's run this now. The stars should stay still. Oops, my mistake. Very sorry about that. Wait. Remove this. Yeah. So this one get multiplied by, and you close the bracket here. Yeah, sorry. So the time span should be multiplied by, you know, this expression. So now if we run it, my mistake. So you can see now the stars are not moving, nothing is moving at all. Okay, so now let me change things a little bit. So let me go to the game. So instead I will assume that each frame, you know, the time span is let's say 0.1 seconds, right? So each 10 frames are gonna represent a single second. So you'll find that, you know, things move a little bit faster. You can see, yeah, because now each 10 frames represent a single second, so everything is running, you know. Yeah, of course I neglected, you know, I am doing this on purpose. We already added this so that we never we are never gonna hit something as you know, as wrong as that. Okay, so I'm gonna remove this one. Okay, so let me save this, run the game again. Okay, so it is working nicely and we have no problem at all. Okay, so far so good. Yeah, so I was planning on creating sprites class for today, but you know, this thing took a little bit of time from us, so I will delay this for tomorrow, delay adding sprites for tomorrow. By the way, what I mean by sprites are, you know, the enemies and, you know, bullets and stuff like that, not the sprites object that LibGDX provides. I don't use most of the engine features. I just use very few things. Okay, and yeah, this is one way to do it. Anyway, so that will be all for today. Hopefully tomorrow I'll be able to create sprites, and you guys will be able to see you know, how we can start creating enemies and go into the important part of the game, which is things like collision detection and stuff like that. Okay, that will be all for today. Thank you for watching, and have a nice day. Bye bye.